When was the last time you played a narrative battle?
Was those giant horse heresy games play count?
They have to.
Sort
right?
of. I guess they have to.
What else would you call that?
So that was like, was that 2 years ago?
Yeah, 2 to 3 years ago.
Oh my god.
Been a while.
Been a while.
Yeah.
It's not very often.
No. And why do you think that is?
That's because our friend in game group is
a bunch of monsters.
Yeah,
that's true.
We want to play like every game's the world championship.
Right.
Even though we're playing for nothing.
Friends trying to kill you or whatever, and you're just like, you have to defend yourself, otherwise
especially me of all people. I've been like, whatever you want to call it, I want to call it retired. I've been on the senior circuit for like a while now.
Yeah.
Where I was like, I still like playing the game and I appreciate following the meta, but I don't need to, like, I'm not trying to win everything. I'm just like, So.
But I mean, more recently, you've been like really. I would say you've been putting more effort into.
Well, I didn't want to embarrass myself.
Well, that's
whatever.
Again, yeah.
So, but I get a little bit of pride knowing that at least I could pick a suboptimal army and do okay with it. Whatever.
Yeah. And give people tough games.
Give them tough games.
Yeah, that guy that played cities against me, that guy was tough.
Yeah.
Did you beat him? Oh yeah, no, I beat him, but like it wasn't an easy.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone can just take whatever. Any
smooth brain.
Smooth brain person can take a bunch of chosen and shove them, and still go 3 and 2. Sorry, Adam. Maybe an entire army too. No, but for real, yeah. So,
what do you think? I think this is the best question to start on. Is what do you think actually constitutes a narrative game? Because people throw the word around all the time.
Yeah. So,
and sure. I think a lot. I actually think a lot more things fall under there than people probably give it credit for.
Well, I think it's just any groups of people that basically like play Warhammer at home and don't really care too much about what's going on in the meta or the rules, or maybe they've got like, maybe even if they're playing a match play game, but like they're not necessarily like checking all the data sheets and what's going on in Warcom, or even they just might be like, they play a couple of times here and there and they don't, they just kind of take stuff out of their case and they don't really overly think about it. They just play and there's epic moments, and that I think that already is in the narrative, but because you're just, like we said, forging your own narrative. Often in these times people weigh proxy models or like to ask their, as soon as they go, hey, I want to use this cool guy I made or whatever, if they make up a house rule or something, basically anything doesn't conform to the strict, rigid, match play experience you see in a store, I guess, is probably pretty much narrative. Like,
it does feel that way, that like it is the like opposite instinct to the match play sort of like way to play, right? Like they feel almost like diametrically kind of opposed to each other.
Yeah. Like I think as soon as if you play games and you're like really don't care if your opponent's like over points or forgot something or made up a rule or house ruled something, and you're okay with all of that, and you never question it, you're just like, sounds good, let's just roll dice. You're a narrative player. You're like, just, if you like games like Path to Glory and
sure,
like you're just, which, and again, this is just literally nothing. This is neutral. There's no negativity towards it. It's just like, I think I thought about it when you posed the question. I was like, they're like, oh, because there's narrative products like Crusade and
right.
And, these things don't always sell super well. We don't usually stock a lot of it. And even when we do get some, and sometimes it sits. And I was like, they're just not narrative players? No, I think it's because narrative people they're literally choosing their own adventure. So maybe don't care. Because they're like, some people are like, oh, this is great. Like, there are people that love Crusade. But then there's all people that are like, I don't need that to have my own fun. I can make it up myself. Like, I don't need the sandbox. Like, so I just think back to all the games I played as a teenager with my friends or whatever. We were just, everything was made up on the fly, like, essentially. So
I think it is a little bit like, I think almost like the dividing line is like you're kind of investing in like the experiential value of the game as opposed to like the results.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
and I think that's good that you put it that way, because even like what we would typically call just like a casual gamer, I think you could definitely put them still in the narrative bucket, because they're just trying to have a good experience with their toys and their friends, and I think that alone builds like a narrative experience. Whereas when you go towards the matchmaking play, it always has a frame of a narrative, but because you're so focused on the results of each kind of turn and the end of the game, I think that's ultimately pulling you out of that sort of experience, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like if you're someone who needs to talk out the end of a game, you're not a narrative player. Mm-hmm. This was like, I think back to all those, whatever you want to call them, staff games, demo games, mega battles when I was a staff member. And there was a lot of games or situations where we were like, oh, we're running out of time. Okay, let's just do a cool giant, let's do a hero battle. Let's just have your general do mine. And, you're just like, whatever. Like you're really not too concerned about the score. You're just playing for the epicness, and that's why I love that we're at least our like close group. We when it comes to heresy, we really do seem to treat it like that. We're just like, let's have a giant battle, and it's funny. Those are the most memorable.
Yeah,
we'll go back and recall situations in those, like the random Wednesday night practice game I played before Adepticon. I don't remember. We played it. It was fun, but like I don't have like crazy memories of like every turn and what happened. But the giant mega battle thing we did a couple times, I was like, oh yeah, I remember when this.
We like every part of the game we remember.
Yeah,
like it's very vivid, right?
Yeah.
Mostly because you're doing things not even for the sake of winning the game. In a lot of cases, you're like,
see what happens.
That's your problem. I'm gonna go after him or whatever.
Yeah.
Or you're like getting like little vendettas going on. Where you're like,
yeah.
I'm gonna drop pod your guy or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think you're right. Even when I think of like running these like little narrative game days throughout my like career, if you want to call it that, I remember like a couple of specific ones. Like we did this like when Night Models was still a company that we cared about. We did this like Justice League War event, which was like so cool. Where this is one of the events I'm the most proud of. Our friend Kevin and I, we teamed up, and we basically everyone who entered had to paint up a bunch of these like parademon guys, and then someone painted up Darkseid, who's essentially like DC Apocalypse or whatever. And the idea is like it's based on an animated show they did called Justice League War, where Darkseid basically invades the Earth, and the Justice League has to stop him. So we had set up this game where there's a bunch of portals. And then the heroes had to basically show. We created all the rules ourselves, other than like the basic rules of the game. And then we created these like, okay, so we want the game to go a certain way narratively. How can we avoid things like, oh, if Darkseid just gets one-shotted by that, So we came up with this like little deck of cards that like the person who was supervising the game or playing Darkseid could like basically play at any time if something happened that was like not in the spirit of what we were trying to accomplish. And it worked really well. And I think there was a couple of things that worked well. Number one is we thought it through quite a bit. We wrote down a plan. We had everybody invested in it because everyone had to paint up some of the parademons. Everyone was invested in the experience together, right? So, that's one of the ones I was particularly proud of, and I haven't done something like that in a long time, but it was very, very cool. And everyone had a blast. And I think if you asked anybody who played in that, they probably can remember most of the stuff that happened that day.
These things. So, what is the, I forgot, what is the question we posed on this topic?
Does anyone care?
Does anyone care? The answer is yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people do.
Sure. I think
you could actually argue that Games Workshop trying to monetize it is just intrinsically not like it can't really be efficient or work that well because like they offer it as an option, but it kind of makes I'm kind of not like now I'm thinking about it like what I mean I wish they put more focus on it because it's probably like the customers they want the most, to be honest, or these are the customers that generally like buy all their things because they love them and not really worry about, but trying to monetize it, it just doesn't like work.
Can I suggest that it might actually just be that they have no freaking idea how to do that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a question, right? Because you're like, oh, if you're gonna have members of their like their design team working on it, and then giving it out for free. But then it's not necessarily like they're not getting anything. Like, people are buying miniatures and participating in their hobby. So like, they got to stop looking at it as like, oh, we need to like release a thing and then tie it to something.
They love data, right?
They want
like
to track.
They love. Oh, this many people bought books. You're like,
Yeah.
okay.
And like White Dwarf has been a thing for a long time that was, that includes a lot of that. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure they'll say like, look, here's a cheap thing we release that doesn't sell very well. Probably, I don't know how well it sells anymore.
Well, White Dwarf should just be a model of the month, and
yeah,
a cool
really,
model of the month.
Really
and
does.
you get a free magazine with it.
Yes.
You want people to read
Yes.
the magazine?
Yes.
Give it away for free with a
Yes,
model that
with a
people
model,
pay for.
Yeah, yeah, and then
There
you
you
can
go.
charge $30 or
Boom,
whatever you
sold.
want or whatever.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
Yeah.
But may I suggest that their approach to cat, they are so match brain headed in their company right now that their approach to narrative play is like essentially like doing a match play, but like with more steps.
Yeah.
And I think that's the wrong way to look at it. If I was to design a narrative play book of some kind for Games Workshop, I would look at a game like Dungeons and Dragons as the example,
Yeah.
right? How do you create a book full of ideas?
Well, the other thing though is because they go through editions relatively quickly, is like at least D&D can make like 30 modules that just stand for 10 years
Yeah.
or whatever, and that are like just like
Yeah. So how do you make a narrative book that like basically is evergreen?
yeah.
I would suggest that it's more about creating a book full of ideas, and instead of focusing on like the rules you can use, it's more like settings and examples of how someone might have done a campaign, or
I mean,
just kind of giving people.
They probably should do that. So I don't know if that doesn't seem like they do. I know they kind of include some of it, but they're like 400-page whatever core rulebooks they release every edition that get barely used these days, especially now.
Yeah.
Like, they're really a dot product now, because the rules get invalidated or changed too quickly. The fluff is fine, but
Yeah.
like maybe we make like whatever 100 pages of fluff, and then maybe there's like 200 pages of just campaign stuff like fun way, like, you know what I mean, and then have the core rules in the back, like always, like, and then that book will be good through. Even in the next edition, you can go back because you have the rules for that campaign, like you have the 10th ed rules that go with the 10th ed campaign rules, and you have it in that book, so you could just play that, I guess. I don't know. I feel like maybe they should, the rule book, that's where its value should be, is here's ways to build war bands, and here's like all these cool narratives. It's all, and that ties in with the fluff too. Like, I don't know. I think
You also put hobby stuff back in there too, if we're getting off topic a little bit.
Yeah.
But like that stuff's evergreen too. Like, it's one of the reasons I kept some of my old books, is like it has the hobby stuff in there.
How did we paint this?
How do we paint this? Or how do we do this? Or
I mean, I did that video with where I went back through my 8th ed rule book or whatever, and they have a massive, like, they have a whole bunch of campaign stuff in there, and they have like a giant castle siege that you can recreate and whatever, and it's like, yeah, just load it with that.
Why not?
Why not?
Yeah, I think they've got they've got a long way to go with like trying to figure out what, like, because obviously with Games Workshop they're going to try to commercialize whatever it is, right? And I think that's the tricky bit. But I think what they've been doing so far is maybe not the right avenue. I like to see more stuff. Like Kill Team to me is the perfect game for a ton of narrative stuff to happen in, because you have these small little settings that are controlled, and you have like a lot of kind of finicky rules, and they have like a one-player mode or a cooperative mode in there you can use that's quite good. And let's start using that to recreate like famous stories, famous things that happen. Like, you could do all sorts of cool things with that. I think the new Typhon Kill Team that's coming out is the first attempt to kind of do that, where they actually have like a bit more support in there for like solo play. Yeah, which is cool.
Yeah.
So hopefully more of that comes out.
But Chris, I won't have time because I'm constantly practicing for the world champs and the Kill Team world champs.
Actually, that's a good segue. I think like I hear from a lot of people sometimes. That sounded weird to put it that way. I often hear from people that they're kind of not being like feeling very fulfilled with their particular, like, what they're doing in their hobby. They're like, yeah, I play with my friends a lot, but everyone's like, we're just doing the match play thing, and I'm not really like, I'm just kind of going through the motions or whatever. That to me is an indicator that you probably need to like start thinking about some of this stuff a little bit more.
I mean, yeah. I mean, match play burns people out, ironically, the most.
Yeah.
So just like, and it's usually because like whatever faction or army they chose is maybe like just not somewhere in the meta that isn't fantastic. So they're just like, or who they're playing against, and they're just like, I don't like. It's like very repetitive. Like you're just doing a lot of same things, and like I said, not everyone wants to like mega solve the puzzle every season. So
100%, yeah, and I think there's a very specific type of person that wants to just like keep using their Tyranid army and really solve it over time and find the perfect list and keep playing even if they're losing or whatever. And whereas the vast majority of people kind of get burnt out doing that. It's too similar all the time. Because the games are so just results driven and not experiential. Like it doesn't feel very good even when you lose. So I think that's a sign that like your hobby's probably ready for a little bit of like a coming out party a little bit. You know, you need to loosen up and kind of like try to think about some of this other stuff, right? But I get that it's a Warhammer community doesn't make it easier. You know, let's be honest.
yeah.
Every even right now with the Age of Sigmar thing, it's like they're shorting off all the changes for your army leading up to this new handbook, but there's no mention of like how would you use those models in like a fun thematic game. It's just all like, oh, this is what this model does when you're going to be playing your match play game in the new handbook or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
and then all the content built around those press releases is about like from a competitive meta standpoint. They're just like, oh, this is like this army is going to be really good now, and this like no one's just like going straight into like how can you abuse this new set of rules? Like, it's just like straight into that, So, I mean, it is a war game.
Yeah.
So
yeah. But I'll be interested to see like when they start announcing the Horus Heresy stuff. I'm very curious what their approach is. Are they going to do it the same way? Are they going to approach it in a similar fashion where they're just talking about like this is what the armies do and this is how you play a game and whatever, or are they going to take maybe more of a casual approach to it and talk about how you could set up some, talking more about the story of the Horus Heresy and because they're going back to the Drop Site Massacre and like how you might frame your battles and maybe there's like a whole bunch of crazy wacky asymmetrical missions and that sort of stuff. So I hope. That's why I think we love the Horus Heresy and we love going there because it does fill your cup up in that regard. Like it is fun to paint a bunch of models and be like, yeah, I chose these because they look freaking cool and they're probably not going to perform very well. And that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But there's going to be so many of them that it'll be fine. So, well, what do you guys think? Are you do you consider yourself a narrative gamer? What would you think a narrative gamer is? How would you define a narrative gamer? Do you think narrative play is dead? Do you think people care at all about it? Do you think this like wave of like match play obsession and all the focus from Games Workshop on that has kind of stamped out that part of the hobby? Are people going elsewhere outside of Games Workshop to scratch that itch? I know I hear that a lot as well. Let us know in the comments. We read those and we try to interact as much as we can. And if you really like these videos, we do a couple of these a week. You can like and subscribe. That helps us out. Check out our Patreon. And you will notice that there's a new channel popping up very shortly where we'll be focused more on the hobby side of this sort of stuff. So we keep this channel for like the sit and chats. And the other channel will be more focused on like hobby tutorials, how to, reviews of products, us bantering about painting and building armies as opposed to bantering about running a business and kind of news. So we're trying to separate those kind of things. So check it out. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.
Bye.